Welcome to Talks with the Invisible Gardener. I'm Andy Lopez, your host. This is where we dig into soil health and learn how to grow smarter organically. Ready to clean up your garden and the planet? Let's go. Don't panic, it's organic. Hello, everybody. This is Andy Lopez. And today's show, I'm going to reveal to you the secret of trace minerals. I have my own idea of what trace minerals is all about. And once you learn that, you're going to love it. So here we go, okay? So trace minerals. So I've started dealing with trace minerals almost right from the very beginning. You know why? Because I deal with trace minerals in my body. One of the reasons why I wanted to garden and to eat food was I can make sure I get my trace minerals, because I didn't like going to the drugstore. I still don't, going out and buying vitamins and minerals. I said, well, you're supposed to get it from your food you eat. And so I figured, well, if you get out what you put in. So I started dealing with trace minerals, making sure that trace minerals are in my garden. As it happens, in my business, I applied the very same thing to that trace minerals in my business. When I go out and do a customer, right? And I do a spraying, I do a natural spraying service. What I really spray is biology and trace minerals. And I will go over the secret to you, because the secret to pest control and disease control is how you deal with trace minerals, how you deal with biology. And by the way, there are actually 96 trace minerals. C90s are one of the places I buy stuff. They sell 90 trace minerals. The other 6 trace minerals, I have to tell you how you get those, because you can't buy them in stores. You can't buy them at all. There's only one way that you can get them. So let's go over a little bit about trace minerals. Now, for me, and I'm sure you must know that trace minerals are essential, right? They're essential for you, for human health. They're essential for soil health, essential for the tree health and the plant health, right? You know that. This is not a basic course, right? You get the idea that the trace minerals are important. You need them for so many different aspects of things, and that we can talk about some other time. But what I want to key into is how it works in terms of pest and disease control. Why you want to do the pest control in the first place. The same thing with us humans. If you have all the pests, if you have all the trace minerals in your body that you need, and you're healthy, you're a different person than if you don't have these trace minerals in your body, you get weak and you get sick. So it's called trace minerals because you have to do it in tiny amounts. There's a friend of mine, he says, don't be a moron. Don't be a moron. I mean, don't put more on it. So trace minerals actually become toxic if you give it too much, if you do too much. And that's the problem I find is happening a lot, is that people are overdoing it. They're putting more on, right? So don't be a moron. And you want to. I learned biodynamics, for example. Biodynamics is really cool because he teaches a basic form of homeopathic medicine. Now, the Rose Steiner actually has a school of medicine, which is basically homeopathic medicine. Tiny amounts are wonderful. Think of the atom, how powerful the atom is. Tiny, but it's got very, very, very powerful, okay? So normally, this is the way it works, supposed to work in Mother Nature. It's in the soil. The trace minerals are in the soil, but they're in the soil in such a way that the soil biology gets it. Because that's what we need to understand. I guess is one of the secrets is trace minerals by itself is not going to do it. Soil biology by itself is not going to do it. The two need to be together, because the soil biology will take the trace minerals, change it into a form that's available. And all these things are important. Soil composition, the pH and organic matter, they're important for the biology, because, for example, soil composition. To me, I see that as housing, right? The condos that the biology live in. It's like an army. They live in this place where they work at. So they need that structure. Organic matter is the tools that they have to work with. The pH is very important too. And it's just like in our body. I did a show once called, I think it was I was comparing the pH of the human body and the pH of the soil. So the human body has to be in a certain pH level, which I think is 4.7. I was just reading up on it again the other day. And the soil happens to be it's a different, not the same pH, but the soil biology lives within a certain range, certain pH range. So one of the things you want to do with your soil, you want to try to get it to that pH range. That's why you want to learn a little bit about pH and what it means. That's the acidity level. 7 is neutral. Anything above that is alkaline. Anything below that, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5 is acidic. It just so happens that the soil biology, the one where I'm talking about, because there's always biology in the soil. There's good guys and bad guys, even though he's not really bad guys. I just like to say good guys and bad guys, because bad guys for us is be diseases, right, and pests and stuff like that. Good guys are all the good biology, but they're all good. It's it's important to understand that what we want a certain type of biology, and they grow in a certain pH range. And this is a biology that would take all these trace minerals and transform it into a nutrient, minerally rich nutrient that is absorbed by the plants. And it's absorbed by the plants, interesting enough, by a different type of soil biology that lives on the root hairs of the plants, for the trees, the flowers. They live on the root hair. So you have all these different types. It's like an army. And in an army, you have all these different people doing different things, right? So that's what happens. You get specialized group of people, whether they're pilots or whether they're support, the mechanics fixing things, or whether they're the cooks, or whether they handle the radar, all kinds of different things. And that's the same thing with the soil biology. They specialize. It's interesting too, is that if you need something, the biology will create that particular job, and change the biology would change to suit to do that job. So if the soil is missing an iron, you need a specific group of biology to work on the iron to convert it. So that's why you want to have the housing and the home structure, so to speak, for the biology that you want, because that's what it's all about. That's what it's really all about. That's what I always talk about. Well, I talk about biology and trace minerals a lot because the two are so intertwined together, and that's part of the secret of understanding this how soil biology and trace minerals work in reference to diseases and pests. So the bioavailability of trace minerals is exactly that. See, bioavailability. That means that the plant can absorb it. It's in a form that it can eat. Like us, for example, I tried eating rock dust a long time ago. It doesn't work. You can't chew on rock dust, but you need the trace minerals. So how do I get the trace minerals? From soil biology, which does the chewing for me. They convert it into a source of food that the plant can get, and then the plant converts it into a source of food that I can get. You see, that's a chain of life. That's what it's all about. Eating something that has the minerals that you need. And so that's why the soil biology is very important. That's why the soil conditions are very important. And these are all mechanisms that allow the plants to absorb minerals. And in essence, in our stomach, we have a very similar type of thing. We have a stomach biology. It's called a biomeme. So we have a army in our body that does specific things. And in our stomach is where they convert the food that we eat, break it down, they take the trace minerals, and they pump it up to the rest of your body. So we have a very similar. I tell people we didn't invent anything. When God created the earth and then created people, he just passed along the system to our bodies, and the human animals and all living beings have a way of taking those trace minerals and putting into their body and using it. That's what it's all about. That's what food is all about. So deficiency in trace minerals, it's interesting. Like, for example, if you see here, you see it here. I see this leaf, and this leaf basically tells me it's missing iron. It's missing, a variety of other things. So usually it's not just one trace mineral that's deficient. Usually when you have, like, for example, this could be an iron deficiency, but what it really is also magnesium. It's really mainly a calcium deficiency. Calcium is more important than nitrogen, than iron and magnesium, calcium. If you don't have calcium in your body or in the plant's body, it cannot convert the minerals into to the body. Okay, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to build the structure, because all of this stuff here is basically a system of how the building works, how the machine works, right? And so I learned from experience. Interesting enough, so what I'm doing today, what I did today, I bought a gallon of organic milk. And if you remember your mom saying, drink your milk, it's good for your calcium. Well, calcium, that's one of the easiest ways to get calcium into plants, is to make a tea from the milk. What I do is I get a gallon of milk, clean distilled water, because you don't want to have the city water. The city water kills the biology. What I do then, it depends what I'm using for it. But if I'm basically going to feed it, I also like to use a turmeric. I like to do. There are different kinds of herbs you can use. One of the advantages of understanding how the biology works in the soil is that when you have, I love herbs. Okay, herbs are very, very interesting. They're very different than vegetables, as you know. So they have their own biology thing going on. Whether you have peppermint or spearmint, these are all basically chemicals that these plants produce. And so I'm taking, I have oregano, and I also have sage and lavender. So I'm taking the plants, I'm making a liquid from them, brewing them together, and then I'm going to put it together with the milk and the turmeric and spray. The calcium is basically a calcium spray with a little bit of trace minerals. I tend to add my stuff that I make, like from my worm juice, to this mixture to increase the bioavailability of all this stuff. Because then when I spray it on the plants, they absorb this. Like, for example, this leaf here, if I was to spray this leaf with this mixture and come back in a few days, it'd be as green as the other one on the left. See, it absorbs it through the leaf. But what it tells me is that there's a problem going on in the soil. You see, because why is this plant? It normally doesn't happen like this. Normally, you don't have one plant on one side and a foot on this side, another plant, and they look differently. If they do look different, there's something wrong with the plant, because we can assume that it's the same soil biology they're growing in. See what I'm saying? So usually, they don't happen like that. You don't really see it together. But when that does happen, there are other things that's going on physically. Something's going on with the plant. Maybe it's being attacked. Maybe it's weak already. But so it's important to understand that the nature tells you pretty much what's going on. So you can see, because the whole thing with trace minerals too is that here's a cool thing too. So I talk a lot about a refractometer. And a refractometer measures the Brix level, which is the sugar level in plants, like this leaf here. If I was to take a sample of the leaf on the right and a sample on the leaf on the left, they would have different Brix readings. The one on the right will have a lower Brix reading than the one on the left. It turns out that Mother Nature, in her wisdom, decided, well, how am I going to get trace minerals throughout the plant? I'm going to hook it into the sugar. Because remember, photosynthesis, plants do photosynthesis to convert into sugar. So the sugar spreads out throughout your body. Same thing in the human body, but it also spreads out throughout the plant body. So the trace minerals take a ride. So when you look at this and you have a low Brix reading, you know automatically that you have low trace minerals. You're missing trace minerals. You see, right? So each trace mineral, iron, for example, has its own color. And so some of us can see it, but basically insects can see it. And so that plant is deficient in trace minerals right there. That plant is perfect food for us. One of the secrets I want to tell you today is that there's a difference between the two. Visually, you can see that, right? Visually, you can see it. But here's the secret. One of the secrets is that carbohydrates. So there's two different carbohydrates things going on here with these plants. The one on the left has complex carbohydrates. The one on the right has simple carbohydrates. The same type of plant, different, right? And what does that? Trace mineral deficiency. It just turns out that the bugs cannot digest complex carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates happens to be their main food source, the main energy source. And that's just Mother Nature's way of saying, look, this plant's sick, it's weak, let's recycle it. Isn't that cool? Okay, so when it comes down, as I said before, you have to be careful with overdoing the trace minerals. This is what happens. You lead to toxicity systems. Same thing with humans. So you have to be. It's it's better not to concentrate. I had so many people that come to me and say, "Okay, you're talking about trace minerals, but you didn't mention which trace minerals. I can go out and buy that trace mineral." It doesn't work that way because I know friends who are chemists. Oh, it needs 10 pounds of this and 5 pounds of that. And four, you can only in nature. Here's part of the secret too. I'm going to tell you right now. There are 96 trace minerals, but 90 trace minerals are available. These are things that if you had garden correctly and if you do all the good stuff, and you're going to get the 90 trace minerals if you do it right. The 6 trace minerals are not found. They're only made by the soil biology. Only the soil biology can take these other things together and convert it into these, I call them exotics. Definitely exotics, because they're not found in the store. The chemists cannot make them. They're only found when Mother Nature makes them, see? So it's better to concentrate. The way Mother Nature works, he doesn't say, here's a pound of calcium, here's a pound of iron. No, they say, here's a complete dinner. You have everything in this plate you need, all the trace minerals in the right portion and the right amount. See? And that's what you want to start thinking about. So they're all needed, right? They're all needed, but you have to be real careful and overdoing. So best thing you can do is help the soil biology to function, right? Help the soil biology to be totally active, to keep it in the right pH level. But you also have to constantly be supplying the trace minerals on a regular basis. Mother Nature normally does that, right? Mother Nature normally takes the trace minerals. You know how she does it? When was the last time an animal came and died on your property? Let's think maybe 100 years ago, not that long ago, maybe 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. There were like literally billions and trillions of animals everywhere, flying all over the place and going all over the place. They were dying and recycling. And the birds will fly from one place, the poop will have the trace minerals. Mother Nature was constantly recycling. Right now, it's not as much as it was happening before. So in your backyard, in your garden, you're not going to get all the Mother Nature recycling for you, right? So you're going to have to be Mother Nature in that way. You're going to have to start. That's one reason why you make compost, is to provide the biology and the trace minerals in a safe place. That's one reason why I use a worm farm. A worm farm earthworms are amazing because they eat everything, and in their body, in their stomach, they have a specific type of microorganisms that convert everything into a form that becomes available. See? So I know that's why when you buy earthworm castings, you know it's a trace minerals. They're going to get a lot of trace minerals in earthworms because it's interesting too. So I tell people Mother Nature is very funny. So two creatures out there that produce the most trace minerals in their manure happens to be the earthworm and the elephant. And if you think about it, they're very identical in their stomach because they eat food, it goes right out. Eat food, grows right on out. And the elephants have massive stomach, and their poop that comes out heavy, rich in trace minerals. The same thing with the earthworms, even though they're smaller, heavy trace minerals. That's what it's all about. So it's important that you understand that everything keys in together. So you need the 96 trace minerals. So take them as wheels, right? And if one wheel is missing, it won't turn the rest of the gears. If one gear is missing, it won't turn the rest of the gears. So they're all interconnected. And that's what you have to understand. You're not Mother Nature. You can't come up with these trace minerals. What you have to do is provide the environment for the trace minerals and the biology to get together, and they will produce the trace minerals that you need. So for diseases, the same thing as pests, okay? Because the greater the pest, the greater the stress, the greater the pest or disease. It's just with the human body. So you're stressed out. You're not going to be getting all the trace minerals you need. You're going to have a problem. Same thing with the plants. So plants can get stressed out in lots of different ways. Mainly they get stressed out because the soil starts to become not alive. One of the things I tell people a lot, and I've been saying it often, and I can't say it enough, is that city water kills the biology. City water will destroy the biology. And if you allow the biology, the plants are going to get stressed. And you know why they get stressed out? Because the root system starts to die. If my stomach started non-functioning, the biology in my stomach started to die, I would get stressed out too. Because no matter what I ate, I would die, right? Stress. So that's why it's very, very important to keep what you really want to concentrate is you want to concentrate on the soil biology. That's it right there. You want to, and there are lots of things like I will show you down the road on how to increase the soil biology. Milk, like I said, is a wonderful thing. Milk has its own bacteria, has its own biology going on there, right? And it's a really long name, but basically, it's a biological, it's a biodynamic spray that they make from milk. Your milk comes from the cow. See, and the cow has this specific biology thing going on. And so you want to constantly be increasing the soil biology, working on it all the time. And you'll get better at it because the indicators are your plants. And then one of the things that I try to tell people is that, okay, so it depends on your nature. Because I don't do that lab testing too much because I know from experience over and over again what's going on. As a gardener, I can tell by looking at the plants, eating it, that I can use a refractometer. If the refractometer's reading's real low, I feel something's wrong. So I don't need a soil by a lab test report. But a lot of people would benefit from a lab test because first of all, it'll tell you what pH your soil is in, right? First of all, it'll tell you what's going on that's wrong. A good lab, which by the way, I do know of a very good one, so you can always email me. I'll be happy to tell you. I might put it in the link when I do the description, the soil lab that you can use. Most laboratories don't care about soil biology. Most laboratories will say, use this chemical, get 2 pounds of iron, the whole setup, and they don't even they don't understand exactly what's going on. So you want to deal with a soil lab that will tell you, well, they actually tell you what biology it has. This is the army you have in your soil, and they will also tell you what you need to do in terms of fertilization. What I feel, and I've learned from experience, because I used to go out and buy organic fertilizer, this and that organic fertilizer, and that organic fertilizer. Organic fertilizers don't work if you don't have soil biology to break it down for you. See what I mean? Rock dust doesn't work if you don't have soil biology to work it. So a lot of people come to me and say, Andy, I buy this organic fertilizer, it's not working. What's wrong? You don't have any soil biology to make it work. So I would rather concentrate on if you get the soil biology functioning, you don't need to really worry about fertilizers because that's all in the process. So you have to understand how to get the biology work, how to make compost. If you make compost, I think we have a show coming up on how to make compost. I'll probably do it over again. I've done it several times because that's important. Your compost should be your fertilizer. Basically, you don't really need anything else, because compost is technically a fertilizer. If you do it right, it has the trace minerals and the biology and all the food it needs. The nitrogen can come from so many different sources. Mother Nature, plants take it right out of the air, nitrogen right out of the air if everything's functioning right. And the problem with the current system now is they always use high nitrogen because nitrogen makes everything go really big, really fast. And they think, wow, that's working. No, it doesn't work that way. And it causes stress. If you give it a lot of nitrogen, high nitrogen inhibits your the plant's ability to absorb minerals. Duh, right? So it's important to concentrate, as I talked about simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. It's important to understand how Mother Nature has set it up. And it's like I tell people, the fox always goes after the sick sheep. And that's the natural way of recycling things. So the way Mother Nature has set it up is that, okay, when you're on your way out, somebody's going to come along and eat you up and convert you, recycle you again. So that's what you really need to understand. And for me, the biggest secret that I can pass on to you, which this by the way, this complex carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, it's not that really well known. And that's a secret, because if you use a refractometer and you see that the Brix reading is really low, then you know that plants can have simple carbohydrates. When your Brix level is really high, you know that plant's going to have complex carbohydrates. You know you're doing the right thing. Basically, it's what it tells you. You're doing the right thing. A good gardener can tell without using any devices. So that's the thing you need to really understand. There, don't key in so much as to okay. So there's a short-term and long-term solution. Okay, so the long-term solution is let's assume you're having a problem with these plants, diseases, whether raw. That means that your soil is having a problem. That means you don't have the structure set up. That means the pH level is not right. That means you don't have enough carbon in it. The city is not there for the biology to live in. That takes a long time to build up the structure. In the interim, there are other short-term things that you can do to give the plants the food they need. So part of the secret is learn how to foliar spray. Learn how to spray through the leaves, as I talked before. You can spray the leaves, spray the trunk of it, and do a soil soak. That means you get the biology in the liquid form. Spray it around the trunks. It gets down into the soil. It'll get a little bath in this liquid but it won't really stay around because nothing there to live in, right? The biology has nothing to live in. That's why if I go to a house and I know that the place is having diseases and problems, that's why they call me. There's nothing in the soil that I can give to them, the soil that will stay. So when I spray the plants and I soak the soil, the root systems are basically getting a little bath in this, but everything will die off because the biology is no place for them to live. You do, but so in conjunction with the spraying, you want to start applying compost. I tell people compost, rock dust, and mulch, not necessarily in that order, because the rock dust is a form of trace minerals, a bunch of different rock dust together, trace minerals. But you can get trace minerals from lots of different places. So you want to concentrate on making compost. If you can't make the compost, find somebody that can. Usually organic gardening club will have one of the people there make the best compost in the world because they have learned that's the thing you want to key into. You don't make compost not so much to recycle things, which is nice. You make compost to make a Band-Aid for the soil, medicine for your soil. So you want to give it to the soil. That is soil you're putting in there, Caesar. You want to constantly be bringing in soil, feed the biology, and once you do that, then the pest and disease will go away. And so there are immediate things you can do, like for example, I had talked about spraying the milk. So the calcium can be fortified. So the milk comes fortified with a bunch of other things, iron and stuff like that. So one of the things I do is I rotate in what I spray. I learned to spray lots of different. A lot of the weeds you can make a liquid from. The weeds are Mother Nature's Band-Aids. They all come up with their own trace minerals. I have an iPhone. Take a picture of it, and in your photo app, there's a little eye. Click on that. It'll tell you, identify the plant, and it'll say rich in iron, rich in calcium, rich in magnesium. Well, when you make a liquid of that, that's what you're going to be spraying. That's why I talk a lot about C90, or you can make, if you do like I do, I have a worm farm. The worms produce a liquid that's minerally rich, bacterially rich liquid. Once you spray, they absorb it through the leaves. The plants will get it. Unfortunately, I would love it if I absorb it through my skin, but my skin does not function like a tree does. So I think that's it for today. And I'm not sure what we're doing next week, but go to the website, check it out. I have lots of things going on all the time, and you can what I do is I have my book Don't Panic, It's Organic, and the ebook version that you can get for free, which is mentioned in this show. Okay, take care now. Bye. It's been great. I'm Andy Lopez. Thanks for hanging out with me on Talks with the Invisible Gardener. If you like what you heard, hit follow, drop a like, and leave a comment. I actually read them. Want more good dirt? Visit invisiblegardener.com. And remember, don't panic, it's organic.